Independence has been the way of the world for 5 centuries. But in the last century, starting with the Second World War, the Holocaust, and then the emergence of global markets after that war, increasingly it became apparent that we were entering into a new time, a new millennium, in which independence no longer ruled, in which the forces we face are forces of interdependence.
Take terrorism, take AIDS, take the migration of labor to get jobs, and you know what? It doesn't make a darn bit of difference which language you speak, what religion you have, you're faced with exactly the same issues.
Ce qui se passe aujourd'hui, c'est que dans un monde globalisé, il ne suffit pas de fortifier la société civile localement ou nationalement, mais il faudrait aussi créer une société civile internationale qui puisse également prendre ses responsabilités.
Living together is a plan that should be made to work.
What happens in Malta and in Indonesia and in Japan affects what happens in Texas and Wisconsin. What happens in Massachusetts affects what's happening in South America.
Does this create space for more diversity, for celebration of more ideas and multiplicity of culture, or does it stifle this?
You can't any longer take the world nation by nation or people by people and think that you can answer any of the challenges or problems we face. Everything is connected in the modern global world. For the first 10,000 years of human civilization, we lived in communities relatively isolated one from the other. What progress and modernization have meant, particularly in the last 200 years or so, has been the gradual breakdown of those borders and frontiers. But it wasn't really till the end of the 19th century, maybe World War I, when it became apparent that the world was really beginning to be connected in ways you couldn't do anything about. Nations that had prized their sovereignty for 300 years suddenly recognized that their precious sovereignty produced mainly war and enmity and instability. And I would argue that September 11th, 2001 was the crucial moment of change. Suddenly our sense of invulnerability, of separateness, of an ability to have a country that was not really interlocked with the destiny of the rest of the world, overnight disappeared. And that was an absolutely critical moment, I think, in the history of Americans' awareness of interdependence. A group of us who had been meeting for a couple of years and towards the end of the 20th century and right into 2001 decided that we would try to create a new day of interdependence the day after 9/11, on September 12th. 9/11, nowadays we memorialize and remember our losses, the victims of terrorism, the victims of violence. But on 9/12, the day after, we say, and now what? Interdependence Day brings together a group of people, including some individuals who I've been working with personally for 10, 20 years or more. For example, Adam Michnik, the founder of Solidarity in Poland and the publisher of Poland's largest free paper.
Réponse pratique pour aujourd'hui qui je retrouve, c'est la tolérance, le dialogue, le pluralisme.
Olata Otuno, formerly an Undersecretary of the United Nations, Lord Frank Judd, and Bhikkhu Parekh, Professor Parekh, who is now Lord Bhikkhu Parekh, both of whom have devoted their lives to international peace.
If you somehow think that God has told you the truth, or God has revealed it somehow and you have interpreted it correctly, then of course why should you tolerate opposition? Why should you tolerate dissent? Why should you tolerate pluralism?
Fauzi Scully, for 12 or 15 years, the founder and leader of the Global Sacred Music Festival in Fez.
Dans la musique, c'est comme une sorte... il faudrait aujourd'hui comme recréer une sorte de paradigme musical du monde politique. Toutes ces folies, n'est-ce pas, qui surviennent, toutes ces maladies qui surviennent dans le monde, c'est parce qu'il y a une disharmonie.
My colleague and partner in political theory in the United States, Cornel West.
And it's just that little wiggle room between mighty and almighty, that love and justice and struggle and sacrifice and service comes in, and we're part of that cloud.
Diana Avif is someone who represents civil society and civic organizations. She's been a powerful voice for this third sector side of our work. Tavis Smiley, the great African-American anchor of the Tavis Smiley Show.
You can achieve many things in life, as many of us have, if you stay committed to the notion of simply never giving up.
Harry Belafonte, someone who has fought for human rights all of his life. The great internationalist leader and remarkable world musician, Yo-Yo Ma.
We're playing something that is bigger than ourselves.
Ruth Dreyfus, the former president of Switzerland. Michel Rocard, the great prime minister of France. Eminent world leaders in politics. These are people who have really committed their bodies and souls to the work of interdependence. Over the years, some memorable moments that have been part of our Interdependence Day celebrations. The amazing African-American performance artist and poet Sonia Sanchez sitting with a couple of students who had hardly been outside of Brooklyn, sitting in Paris talking with Sonia about interdependence. Last year in Mexico City, we did an interesting panel on the future of interdependence and virtual democracy, democracy on the internet, democracy in the new media. As we met there, our meeting was being projected into Second Life, and where 60 or 80 other people in Second Life had assembled their avatars and were meeting simultaneous to our meeting. Then there was the memorable moment with Sangeeta Swaran, an Indian dancer who danced for us in Arab Fez, Morocco, as part of this global Interdependence Day, a true symbol of the multicultural realities of the world and the power of artists to cross frontiers. The arts have a natural tendency to become interdependent and global. And having had now for 6 years running artists as central protagonists in Interdependence Day, that's been, I think, one of its most powerful symbols and also the signs of its greatest success.
We are all here to look at the world, and say simply, we must maintain this earth, and we can only do it if we recognize that we are each other's brothers and sisters, and that's not romantic, that's hardcore.
We need to have independent forums such as this to discuss the flaws of government and to see if we cannot replace it with something far better.
We are one single extended family. We should work this out.
We've divided the world into all these arbitrary little nation states and tribes and peoples and countries, while when you look from space, it's one single world, one single economy, one single environment, one single human race. And what interdependence speaks to is the need now to find solutions and remedies for all our problems that reflect the reality of that small, fragile planet when you look at it from outer space.